Hi, today we're going to be talking about planning your writing. Planning your writing is very important to what you're doing. You're making a blueprint of the paper that you're going to want to write. Most houses, not all, but most houses are built with blueprints. If you don't have the blueprint, then the builders don't know exactly what the house is supposed to look like. So you could have one builder that is working for 5 or 6 days on a house, and then they go on vacation, and the next builder comes in and they wouldn't know where to pick up on the building project. So when you're writing, at least at this stage, I suggest that you plan your writing. It is crucial to have a good plan to begin. So the first thing you need to do is you're going to be writing a proposal. A proposal, as this guy here on one knee, he is asking a question. The answer is not always going to be yes. That's why you have to ask a question. So with your proposal, what you're giving to me is a plan title. This is the assignment you're going to be working on. So pay attention to this particularly. So your proposal is going to include a planned title. This is going to be what you think your paper should be called. I might give a suggestion of a change. I might not. So pay attention to that. It's going to contain your research question. What is going to be the main question you're going to try to answer? Excuse me. It's going to be the main question you're going to try to answer in your work. And are there any related questions or sub-questions that go along with the research question? Your proposal will also have your working thesis. I want to take a look at your thesis so I can see if you're on the right track. Your proposal should also contain any key terms. Are there any technical jargon information that I need to know? Or is there some key terms for the paper? Like, are there keywords? If it was going to be in a search engine, where there be key terms or keywords that would relate to your paper. And I would like to see the outline of it. The outline should be more than point one, and then you write subpoint one, subpoint two, point two, subpoint one, subpoint two. I want to see something more than that. Your outline needs to have some real information. I would like to see what your conclusion is going to be. You don't need to write out your conclusion. I just don't want to see the word conclusion at the end of your outline. So the outline should be detailed. Doesn't have to be super detailed, but if you take a look at your outline, and the stronger your outline, the easier it is going to be to write your paper. Take this part from me. I was in grad school and I was working on my first thesis project. And my thesis was a novel that I was writing. And what I did, because I'd already always done this before, was just begin writing. And I began writing and I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And I turned it in to my professor at the end of the first semester. The end of the first month, sorry. And he gave me some difficult words. He said, if you continue writing like this, you will not pass this grade. You will not grade. You will not pass this program. You don't have any direction. I can tell you don't have any direction because you contradict yourself 3 or 4 times throughout this whole thing. Your story has no main focus. He said, what you need to do is outline. And so I took his advice. Instead of said, well, I've done this my way the whole way, I know what I'm doing. I took his advice and I made an outline. And then I submitted my stuff the next month to him. And he said, this is hands down 100% times better than what I read before, because you outlined. And it helped me. I finished my novel ahead of schedule because I outlined. So I definitely suggest outlining. So also within your proposal is sources. You want to show me what your sources are going to be. And with this proposal, remember, this is all a possibility. This is not the 100% stamped, I'm done, I can't change anything. All of this can change. But when your proposal, you usually don't propose to somebody unless you have an idea that they're going to say yes. And my suggestion is you're not going to write a proposal for a research paper unless you kind of have an idea of, yes, that's what I'm going to write my paper about. So take a look at the detailed instructions on the proposal and fill it out, but these are the main portions of the proposal. Within the proposal, you're going to have to look at your planning and your research. And if you don't plan ahead, this is what happens. You get a sign with a small a and a very small d. So plan ahead. So with your planning and research, this is what I'm looking for. These are my suggestions. I'm not looking for this. Sorry, these are my suggestions. I suggest that you outline your ideas. I can't go strongly enough. In beginning writing, you should always outline. Even if you've been writing papers for years and years and years, I suggest that you outline, because if you don't outline, you might start out with way too much information, or you might start out with not enough information. So outline your work. Make word clouds. Get all the ideas, put them together, just start writing word clouds on a piece of paper or type them on a computer or something, and see where certain ideas take you. You also want to whittle the research. So you now have this stack of articles that I've suggested that you have, the way too much research. Whittle it down. Take out the redundancies. Take out the same copy written by two different AP wires. So whittle your resources, find your final sources. So this is going from the secondary to the primary source. Find the final sources, the ones you're going to use, and then evaluate your sources. Make sure that they are strong sources. We talked about evaluating your sources. And then after that, you want to separate your material into topics. The way that I do research, the way that I write research papers, is I have all of my research laid out in front of me or nearby, like if I was in an office and I had a table behind me, I would put all of my research on the table so I can type about something, turn around, and find that information, and then put it before me so I can use it as I am working. So separate all your information into separate topics so you can find all the information as necessary quickly as you're writing. So writing has a lot to do with planning ahead. One of the main things you're going to want to do with this is writing your research question. And the research question is really the guide to your writing. It is something very specific. It is very clear, and it's focused on what you are wanting to say. It's the main overall question that you're wanting to answer. The research question feeds your thesis. It's what brought you to this direction. Your research question should be concise. It needs to be specific. It needs to be able to be done in a single question, not 5 or 6 different sentences to make up one question. It should be concise, and it should be arguable. And what I mean by arguable is there should be 2 sides to that coin. And you can remember it like this. When you're working on a research question, there is a difference between fact versus opinion versus argument. So your research question should not just be a blatant fact, because you can't write a paper about a fact. I mean, you could use that fact to help build your information, but you can't, it's not arguable. You can't say the moon is in the sky, and somebody's going to say, no, it's not. All they have to do is go outside and look outside at nighttime when there's a moon out, and they see the moon there. So your research question cannot be just a fact. It also can't be opinion, because you can't argue an opinion, because typically opinions are held and they're not going to be changed. So you can't really argue an opinion. I can I can have the opinion, and I do, that um, the Green Bay Packers are a great football team. You might unfortunately be a Bears fan or a Vikings fan or a Lions fan, and you think wrongly. But I can't write a paper about the Packers being the best team, and because that would just be my opinion completely. So what you want to do is, with your research question, you make sure that it is an argument. It's something where there's not a definitive yes or no answer. There's not um, a definitive side. There's something that you can dig deeper into. So with your research question, make sure that there is more to be said, enough to be said, and enough to be questioned. So the stages of writing. Stages of writing are easy. There's a beginning of writing, the middle of writing, and the end of writing. That's it. That's all you need to do. All right, I'm kidding. The writing comes in many, many, many different steps. And I like this picture because it kind of shows writing. It's a metaphor to me as writing as a staircase to this light. There is light at the end of your writing. You're going to have a paper. You're going to have something tangible at the end of that. So the staircase is not just going to keep going on and on. There is an end. There's a top to that staircase. So writing is more than just the beginning, the middle, and the end. Writing is thinking about what you want to write. If you don't think about what you want to write, then you're probably not going to write about it, right? After you've done your thinking about it, you've decided on what you want to write about, you're going to start collecting. You're going to find some research. You're going to find the articles. You're going to find the things that are going to back up your proof. They're going to give others a reason to continue reading. It's going to be the collection of your information. So you've done this collecting. Now you're going to be doing research. So you've collected all these articles. Now it's time to read them. Find the specific pieces of information, that the one key that's within it that you know you need. So you do your research, you take your notes. Next is narrowing. So this is what I've alluded to many times. You have too much research. Narrow it down. Find the importance within it. So you're researching, then you are narrowing down the research. Then you do your thesis building. It is incredibly freeing, I think, that after you've done all of this and you build your research, you build your thesis, and then you feel a sense of, this is where my paper is going to go. I know what I'm going to say. I know how I'm going to prove it. So I'm going to build my thesis. And then when you build your thesis, then you write a draft. It doesn't have to be the specific length that I'm asking for. It can be longer, it can be shorter, but just write a draft. Get a feel for how the information's coming out. Get a feel for the research. Does it fit? As you're drafting, find your specific point of view. Find your specific voice. Don't just repeat what has been said. Find out how you're going to say it. Find out how the information comes from you, how it is important to you, and just write. And my drafts, they are sometimes too long, but sometimes they're too short. And when they're too long, obviously you got to cut it down. And when you cut it down, that can definitely be hard because you might not get to say everything you thought you needed to say. But when it's too short, that can sometimes be a little nice because you can say, you know what, I didn't anchor this point enough. I didn't give enough background information. So I can then feed that information and give more strength to it. So you're done with the drafting. The next thing you need to do is the take a break ing. All of them had ing ending, so I needed to use another ing. So take a break ing. I think one of the most important things to do is just step away from your writing for a little bit. This can be an hour, this can be a day. If you have the luxury of the time, this can be a week. So I definitely say when you're writing something, get the first draft out of the way and then take a break from it, because when you set it aside and you come back later on, you're going to see it with new eyes, even if it's just been a little bit of time that you've taken a break from it. Um, I have found that some of the work that I do, my fiction writing, it is a lot stronger. It's a lot easier to edit, to do the rewrites after I've taken a break, because I see it under new eyes. I see it as a reader. So taking a break, that's what I should have done. Taking a break. Anyway, taking a break is a very important step, and I don't suggest that you skip it. So after you've done all of this, you're almost there. These are what I say are the important steps. This is that final putt to get this golf ball into the hole. This is what's going to get your paper from just a jumble of words into a final product to submit. So what that's going to take, though, is reading your paper. Do not submit to me a first draft as considered a final draft. You must read through your paper. When you do the reading of your paper, you're going to find mistakes, you're going to find contradictions, you're going to find misspellings, grammar issues, you're going to find all that stuff. You're also going to find I wasn't as strong as I needed to be with this point. So you're reading through it, and you're actively reading through it, underlining, circle, crossing out, making sure that you're finding the paper and making it say exactly what you want it to. Then you're doing the editing. Look for those grammar mistakes. Look for the spelling errors. Look for the phrases that are used incorrect. Not using second person, not using first person. Making sure that your grammar is strong. And then you're going to do the revising. You're going to make all the changes within your paper. You're going to find those other places where they might need a stronger transition statement. Then you're going to rewrite. You're going to take everything you've done. I'm not saying you scrap it and just start typing again, although that does work for some people. But do the rewriting. That take those notes, and instead of just plugging in that one more source, rewrite the whole paragraph so it flows correctly now, instead of feeling like you just threw in one more source. There is an author that I know of. Her name is Patricia Highsmith. And when she was writing, she would rewrite everything that she wrote the previous day before she started the next day, just so she could get back into the flow of the story and get back into the flow of the writing. I'm not suggesting you do that, but you might be able to find that is going to be helpful. So after you do the rewriting, then guess what you do? You do the reading again. And then you do some more editing. And then you do revising, and then rewriting. And I could keep clicking this all day. You're going to want to do this a few times. I suggest at least twice. You're going to want to go through your paper to reread it. Don't just do it one time. But don't do it 15 times either. And if you have a difficulty with reading your own work, maybe you can have somebody else read it for you. Have somebody read it to you so you can hear it. Or maybe you read it out loud and listen to how it's reading. When you do that, you can get a feel for how the paper is coming across. So if you read it to yourself out loud makes a big difference than with just reading it in your head because you're not going to hear those things. There was one time that I was helping somebody with one of their papers. It was an article they were writing, and they had been through it 4 or 5 times. I know they had been. I saw them do the editing on this 4 or 5 times. I read it to them. I read the first sentence to them. They used an incorrect tense, an incorrect word, and the incorrect tense of that word in the first sentence. And they just had not seen it because they had seen it so many times. They just missed it. So it's very important to do this. So I know that there's a lot. There's a lot to do, but don't forsake any of these steps. Going through each one is going to make your writing stronger, and that's what I really am passionate about. I really want you to have the strongest writing possible, and don't skip any of this stuff. Especially don't skip taking a break, because that is going to really help your writing be stronger.